Good evening, everybody. I'm Anthony. I hope you all are doing well. As you can see, I'm not Christina. I'm not sure if you expected her or not, but I'm going to be taking over for tonight. So what we're going to start with is some announcements, and Ellen's going to be sharing those for us as we speak.
Good to have you with us this evening. Well, if it would help if I talked into the mic, wouldn't it? I forget. Just a reminder that this month, here I am advertising for myself. This month is Pastor Appreciation Month, so that's one of the announcements for this week. Birthdays this week: Penny Albrecht, Sharia Caraballo, and Pat Halstead have birthdays this week. And anniversaries: Don and Dawn Pierce, 33 years. Peg and Carl Carlson, 37 years, and Paul and Don Norton, 42 years. So congratulations to all of you who have anniversaries this month, or this week. There's an adult Bible study on Sunday mornings from 9:30 to 10:30 in the nursery. If anyone's interested, it's open for anyone. You don't have to know the Bible at all. You can just come and ask your questions. Jerry Clark is very easy to chat with, and he'll answer questions as he can. If he can't, he'll find out the answers. Kids Connection VBS needs donations for snacks that are wrapped up in individual packages, same with juice boxes or Capri, whatever they are, so that they'll be okay for COVID-19. Monday afternoon, we have a prayer and Bible study that got started this past week. It's a very small group, and anybody that would like to come join us, there's no preparation time involved for you. It's all on me, except we will not be meeting this Monday because it's a holiday and the office is closed, but we'll be meeting the following Monday. Oh, man, I should never spend the day with you. It's a bad thing. This Monday is a holiday, so the office is closed, and we will not be meeting this Monday. We'll meet the following Monday. Blankets and tools for Church World Service collection is this Sunday. We'll be handing out boxes for Operation Christmas Child on the 25th. We've got a Christmas Bazaar coming up November 6th and 7th. If you do any crafts, they're looking for crafts to sell at that bazaar. Blessing Box could use some donations, non-perishable items and toiletries. You can either put them in the Blessing Box out there, or you can bring them into the office, and we'll make sure they get put out. Food donations or monetary donations are still needed for the Bag Lunch program. We're going to be going through December. You can see Don Norton for questions, any questions you might have about that. Yeah, we have lots of announcements. Everything's in the newsletter, October newsletter, which you should have gotten this week, I believe. Deadline for the November newsletter is Friday, October 16th, and that's a firm deadline. If you don't get your articles in for that, Missy will be running them off without them, so just a reminder. So, thank you.
Awesome. Let's give a round of applause to Ellen.
No, let's not. Don looks through them. Don is taking care of that, so it's not a problem. Brian was saying some of the food is outdated, but Don has been looking at them and just trying to take care of that. Okay, I will let her know.
Cool. All right, so tonight we're going to start with a song. This song is called Reckless Love, one of my favorite songs. I hope you all enjoy it, and let's get started. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it changes chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't turn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't turn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't turn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Thank you. All right. So tonight, I would like you all to just take a moment and think about the word forgiveness. Think about the word forgiveness for just a moment. And before we get started, we're going to read out of Matthew, which is 18:21 through 35. So as I'm reading this, think about that word forgiveness, okay? Then we'll come back and talk about it. Matthew 18, 21 through 35. Then Peter came to him and asked, Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times? No, not 7 times, Jesus replied, but 70 times 7. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven can be compared to a king who decided to bring his accounts up to date with servants who had borrowed money from him. In the process, one of his debtors was brought in who owed him millions of dollars. He couldn't pay, so his master ordered that he be sold, along with his wife, his children, and everything he owned to pay the debt. But the man fell down before his master and begged him, Please be patient with me, and I will pay it all. Then his master was filled with pity for him, and he released him and forgave his debt. But when the man left the king, he went to a fellow servant who also owed him money, a few $1,000s. He grabbed him by the throat and demanded instant payment. His fellow servant fell down before him and begged for a little more time. Be patient with me, and I will pay it, he pleaded. But his creditor wouldn't wait. He had the man arrested and put in prison until the debt could be paid in full. When some of the other servants saw this, they were very upset. They went to the king and told him everything that had happened. Then the king called in the man he had forgiven and said, You evil servant, I forgave you that tremendous debt because you pleaded with me. Shouldn't you have mercy on your fellow servant, just as I had mercy on you? Then the angry king sent the man to prison to be tortured until he had paid his entire debt. That's what my heavenly Father will do to you if you refuse to forgive your brothers and sisters from your heart. Okay. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Tell me, what is forgiveness? What would be your definition of forgiveness? Who would like to share? Your own definition of forgiveness.
Oh, we're all bashful tonight.
Don't be shy.
Is this
We're
on
few in
now?
numbers.
Is this on again? Okay,
What's forgiveness?
thank you.
I guess if someone has done something that has offended you and you have to go to that person and tell them, go to that person and let them know that what they did offend you. Go to them, not tell someone else that person, you have to face up to them.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to gossip and tell someone else and never face them. And then I think you have to also follow up and try to forget about it. That's the hard part.
Absolutely.
You can ask them to forgive. You can forgive them, but you have to also try to forget in your own mind that it's over
Absolutely.
and move on.
Yeah. Anyone else have a definition of forgiveness that they would like to share?
Like not holding a grudge?
Not holding a grudge, yes. Yeah, what else? What's your own interpretation of the word forgiveness?
Letting go.
Letting go. Yep, absolutely. So let me read to you what Webster had to say about forgiveness, okay? So Webster says, to cease to feel resentment against an offender. Another way to look at it is to give up resentment of or claim to requital. To forgive an insult, okay? To grant relief from something. That is the definition of forgiveness, okay? So now, what I would like you to think about is what might be an example of a time when maybe you forgave somebody. Think about a time where you forgave somebody. Do you have a time where you forgave someone? What was that like for you? Think about that for a minute.
Wait a minute. Oh, you think you have, you just can't come up with something. I think I have, but then I can't pop it back up, okay.
It'll come back. Think of a time when you forgave someone and what that was like for you. Powerful moment, isn't it?
Very difficult, depending on what you're forgiving.
Absolutely. So it depends on maybe the size of what you need to forgive or what someone else should ask forgiveness to you, right? Think about a time when you had to ask for forgiveness. Oh, that's a turn. Oh my goodness. The first one's easier, I think. But when it comes to fessing up to our own mistakes, that's a hard part. What does that feel like when we have to own our mistakes? What are some emotions that we might feel when we do that? Think on that. I think there's a lot of examples. What do you got?
If you have something to say, just let me know. We're trying to get it recorded so he doesn't have to repeat it.
And if you can't think of one right now, that's okay.
Doesn't God ask us to
Hold on.
Yes, he does.
Even if we
Say it
think,
again, that's it, pick up the-
doesn't God ask us to forgive even if we don't think that we were wrong?
Yes.
Because I know someone who went for a long time not able to forgive someone, and they finally did, and they felt so much better.
Yeah. Yes. So that kind of leads me to my next point. Was there a time when you needed to ask God for forgiveness for something? Ooh, that gets a little tougher, doesn't it? Why? Why does that get tougher?
I think we really have to look deep inside ourselves and admit we did something against God that, because we know God, we love God, but when we do something wrong and have to ask God for forgiveness, then, wow, that's a hard thing to do, because we don't like to say, we believe we're good Christians, whatever that is, and we don't like to say that we've messed up.
Correct. So it's very hard to go to God and be like, hey, I really messed up yesterday. I need your forgiveness, right? Very difficult. Some humility comes into play when it comes to that. I think some accountability comes into play as well. And it's kind of embarrassing to ask for forgiveness, is it not? Right? Especially when we make a mistake that maybe we don't like. And I think we are our own worst critics, right? We are our own worst critics.
Well, for some of us, I think for some people, it's just hard to look at themselves and see that they do something that hurts or offends somebody else. And if you can't look inside and look back at your life and say, oh my gosh, this is what I did and it hurt somebody else, it's hard to ask for forgiveness if you don't think you've done anything wrong.
Yes. And I think that's where it becomes more difficult, right? When we have to come face to face with our own selves in that mirror, right? We have to look at ourselves in that mirror and really own a mistake that we did in order to move past it, right? And in order to maybe seek forgiveness from God. So that leads me to my next question, and going back to your point, Penny, right? Nan, okay, got it. So does God forgive us even if we choose to walk away from him? Does God forgive us even if we choose to walk away?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I think so.
Yes.
I mean, yeah,
Do you agree?
because he forgives everything. No matter what.
I would hope that he does.
Yeah.
My faith makes me think that he does.
Right. Right. So, Why is it then, if he really truly does forgive us for everything that we do, why is it hard to face it? Right? So think about that in your own life, right? Think about a time where it was hard for you to come face to face about a problem that maybe you caused, or vice versa, right? Sometimes that happens too, and I really do believe that God will forgive, right? If you only ask. If you only ask. So I'm going to share another reading, and think about everything that we talked about so far about forgiveness, okay? And see what maybe pops out at you in this reading of John. So this is John chapter 8. If I can open the page, that would be wonderful. There we go. So this is John chapter 8. And again, think about that word forgiveness and maybe where you see forgiveness in this chapter, okay? And then we'll kind of come back and we'll talk about, does God forgive? Does God forgive? Think about that when I read this. Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning, he was back again at the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. "Teacher," they said to Jesus, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say?" They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him, but Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, "All right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." I'm going to say that again. Let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away, one by one, with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, "Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you?" "No, Lord," she said. And Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." Okay. Forgiveness. Does God forgive? Does Jesus forgive? Holy Spirit forgive? Does the Trinity forgive? Where was forgiveness in that chapter? Where was it? Anybody know? Don't be shy. Where was forgiveness?
Do you want to say something, Brian?
At the end.
At the end, okay.
At the end, yeah.
It appeared to me that the gentlemen were all sinners also.
Correct.
If she was a prostitute, they were also the sinners, not just the woman.
Right. So did God condemn the men?
They were the sinners.
Yeah,
also.
right.
So,
Right.
and people who are criminals, they are, their accomplices are also criminals. I mean, or there are people who cause things to happen, bad things to happen.
Right.
So we are, I guess there's a word called we are our brother's keepers.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what is part of this lesson.
Yeah. So Jesus not only forgave the woman, but I would like to think, because I didn't really see where he condemned the men either, did he?
They condemn themselves.
They condemned themselves, didn't they? He didn't have to say much to them.
Just the first one that hasn't sinned can throw the first stone, and they all walked away.
Yeah. So how do we relate that to our world today? Do we go after people for a sin that they do? And then do we not look at ourselves in the mirror when we sin? Right? Who are we to judge somebody else? Right? I don't believe we're meant to do that. Forgiveness is huge, right? Forgiveness is huge. And I think our society really could benefit from learning about forgiveness, I think, nowadays, right? There's a lot of things we can forgive, right? We can forgive some small things, right? So for example, Ellen kind of traumatized me a little bit today, so I'm gonna forgive her for, kind of traumatizing me a little bit. I may have to seek some counseling, but, I forgive her for that, right? There's a small forgiveness, okay? Well, let me do a big one. I know somebody who got into a car accident, right? This is just a made-up story. Got into a car accident due to driving under the influence and severely injured someone. Does that person who was driving the car under the influence deserve forgiveness? We may not think so at the time, right? Even if that person who was injured died. Does that person still deserve forgiveness? Ponder that. Let me give you another one. This is something I dealt with this week. I know somebody who I'm currently working with. Not going to go too deep in detail, but this person ended up hurting themselves in a way, and it was hard for me to watch. Does that person deserve forgiveness from me? Right? Absolutely. That person deserves a second chance. Does God give us second chances? Does that person in the car who maybe could have killed someone under the influence deserve a second chance from God? A third chance from God? A fourth? 70 times 7? I think that's what Jesus said. So why is it that we have a hard time with that? If God says, and Jesus says, to forgive 70 times 7, why don't we do it? It's a hard concept. It's a hard concept for our minds to think about. But I challenge you to do it. It's hard. It's very hard. I struggle with it too. We all do. And I think God understands that. But I think today we really need to practice that more often in our lives. So what I would like you to think about for a minute is think about a time maybe where you were unable to forgive someone. Think about that. So going back to what we talked about, does that person that maybe you are unable to forgive, would God forgive them? Would God forgive them? What kind of emotions would we feel and go through when we're struggling with that? When we're struggling to forgive someone, should we take that to God? Should we take those feelings to God? I think so. Help us work through that to get to that point where we can forgive. Now, does God ask you to forgive tomorrow? Or today? Or 3 days from now? Did it say, or did Jesus give a timeline when we need to forgive? I don't think so. I didn't read a timeline in there. Did you hear a timeline? No. He just said we need to forgive 70 times 7. Right? So what I take from that is that he will work through us to get to that point to be able to forgive those we cannot forgive right now. So think about that. Has there been a time where you were not forgiven or feel like you don't deserve forgiveness for maybe something that you did in your life? I'm going to repeat that again. Has there been a time where you were not forgiven or feel like you don't deserve to be forgiven? Now my challenge to you, does God forgive you? even though we feel like we don't deserve it? I think he does, 100%. What are some of the things that we go through when we experience that feeling of we don't deserve to be forgiven? We need to take those feelings and give them to God. That's how you're going to work through forgiving yourself, right? Does God leave us when we are struggling to forgive ourselves or to forgive someone else? I don't think so. I don't think so. Does God forgive you for whatever wrong thing you've done in your life? Now we're looking in the future as well. If we make a mistake in the future, do you think he's going to forgive us? Or is he going to walk away? Who walks away? I think we do. But God never does. God never walks away from us. We are the ones that typically will walk away from him. I see that time and time again in the field that I work in for substance use, all the time, and I hear that question. In fact, I heard it this week in one of the groups that I run, and actually this person was able to come to terms and somewhat forgive themselves for things. Powerful, powerful thing to hear, to be able to forgive our own mistakes, no matter how bad it is. But let me tell you this, they didn't do it by themselves. They had God with them, and they said it. They said it. Powerful thing. Why is it that we assume always that God won't be there for us when we make a mistake or fall, or maybe trip and fall, right? Why? Why do we assume? Because he never walks away from us, right? He forgives us.
Yeah, but other people walk away from us.
Exactly. Exactly. What I want you to think about now is, what are some things that our society should seek forgiveness for? You don't have to answer this, okay? But I really want you to think about that. Is, what are some things that our society should seek forgiveness for, whether it's a big thing or a very small thing, like, Ellen traumatizing me a little bit today. It was terrible. And boy, I felt bad for the dogs too, man.
You should
Brooke
feel
and
bad.
Rizna.
You should feel bad for my dogs. They're in a bad place.
I know they are. Does God forgive Ellen for traumatizing the dogs?
I sure hope so. The dogs may not.
How can we mend our relationship with God through forgiveness? Think about that this week. Think about how you can mend a relationship, not just with God. I don't want it to be just with God, because yes, we should be doing that. But think about how you can mend relationships with yourself, and think about how maybe you can mend relationships with other people. Whether it's easy, like with Ellen, picking on me all day today, or it's so hard to where you can't face a person for a mistake that you made. But I encourage you this week to don't do it alone. Don't forgive alone. Have God walk with you as well. Will you pray with me? God, you always are with us. Always. I can't even tell you how much, not just me, but everybody in this room appreciates that you are always with us. Even when sometimes we feel like you're not, but you are. You totally are. You're with us in this room. You're with our world. You're with those who are suffering. You're with the people that are struggling maybe with this disease that's going on, COVID-19. You're with people all over the world, and you never leave us. You always forgive till the very end. I pray that you continue to always be there for us, with us, and maybe through us, if necessary. You are an awesome God, Lord. continue to be with each and every person in this room in a very special way tonight, this week, and for the rest of our lives. Amen. All right, our final song, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Normally I would be singing it because I'm leading worship. Normally I sing 2 songs typically, but I chose this song with Ellen because I really want you guys to just take this time and spend it with God, okay? Spend it with God and take all of the things that we talked about. If you have to forgive someone, take that to God. Take it to the cross, okay? Take it to the cross. If it's something you need forgiveness for, do the same thing. If you need forgiveness from God, do that as well. So this song is called Come to the Cross by Michael W. Smith. I hope you all enjoy it.
Wherever you are at the cross, there is room. Tell your burdened heart, at the cross, there is room. Tell it in the Savior's ear, cast away your every fear. Only speak, and He will hear. Hallelujah. Everyone can come to the cross. It doesn't matter what you've done. Everyone can come to the cross. Come today at the cross, there is room. Blessed thought for everyone can come to the cross. Now a living fountain see, open there for you and me, for rich and poor, for bond and free. Oh yeah, hallelujah. Everyone
Isn't it a wonderful thing that all of us can come to the cross whenever we need to? I want to leave you with one thing that I found today. Actually, it was on Facebook, and I think this one posted it. So it says, treat people who make mistakes the way you would want God to deal with you when you make a mistake. Think about that this week. And just know that no matter what, you can go to the cross. Amen.